Strength has got to be one of the most valuable assets one can, you know, ascertain, that one can develop. You know, it's a very important trait in the world that we live in, and your strength will, your well-being a lot of times will be dependent on your strength, whether that be mentally strong, physically strong, emotionally strong, or spiritually strong. If you are dealing with an event or dealing with a challenge that you're facing, being mentally strong about it, like structuring your thoughts and your mental patterns in a way around that situation where they're strong, where they're confident, where they're supporting your success in that situation. Physically, knowing what you need to apply your physical state of being towards and what actions you need to carry out, and also realizing, how do I need to go about doing this when it comes to physically? Emotionally coming into that situation with strength, meaning emotional stability, emotional balance, and the ability to be emotionally present in what you are trying to overcome. And spiritually being strong by realizing that regardless of the situation happening, you know, I'm still spiritually experiencing life regardless, and it doesn't matter really what I see or what's in front of me. Have that spiritual strength to know that you're going to be good no matter what, that you're protected through all experiences that you go through. And having that strength is important because you're going to have to continue working hard and harder and harder and harder and harder at the things that you want to overcome and at the things that you want to achieve in your goals. So the more you work hard at something, the more strength it's going to take to apply that to that. So the more that you work harder and harder, you mentally have the chance to continue growing, continue building when it comes to your mental state of being and your mental strength. If you are, let's say, mentally getting weak, or you feel as if you're mentally weak, then that just goes to show, okay, maybe you have a vulnerability when it comes to mentally. What is bothering you? What mental thought forms, what mental patterns are the issue for you? And finding that at the root cause and then being able to deal with it. And let's say physically you're feeling weakness. Figure out what's going on. Why is that happening? Physically, if you have a health-related issue, if you have something going on, like I said, with your physical vessel, something health-related, then know and try to find out and discover what was the root cause of that, and what do I need to do now to strengthen my body back up? What do I need to do now to, what is my response to that event? Therefore, what will then be the outcome? If you are, let's say, emotionally, like I said, feeling vulnerable or maybe emotionally unstable, I mean, that's probably a one that people deal with, is emotional instability or unstableness. If you're having that, then realize, okay, what am I emotionally reacting to? What is affecting and burdening by chance? We don't know for sure, but you have to become aware of it. What is burdening my emotional state of being in a way where it's allowing me to be weak, it's allowing me to be vulnerable and unstable, and find out why you're feeling that way, and therefore put in the work to make that right and to make that where your emotional state of being is now stronger, and now your emotional state of being is unaffected by those stuff. So you're able to, in the situation that you need to deal with, be emotionally balanced. And when it comes to spiritually, if you're feeling, let's say, spiritually lost, or as if the odds are not in your favor, People are being, put on paths that maybe you see as should be for you, but don't think about it that way. Think about it that you're on your own path. Your path is custom to yourself, and spiritually have that faith in yourself to know that you have the strength to get there, regardless of if you want that or not. You have the ability to do that, because each spirit has the ability to, succeed. And when it comes to, if you're feeling that, that spiritual blockage or whatever it may be when it comes to spiritually, realizing that, like I said before, at the end of the day, I still have my spirit, and that's not going anywhere, regardless of what happens through the situation. So being able to power through situations like that and maintaining your strength, and also building that strength. And also another thing is, knowing what you have to bring to the table. How do I have to think when it comes to mentally? What do I have to think about this a lot, or is this something where I have to think about it as least as possible? Then when I'm in that situation, now I can think about it a lot. How is my mental state of being going to be firing on all cylinders, and what do I need to do, let's say per se physically or emotionally or spiritually, to then have a abundance effect on my mentality that, okay, now I'm able to apply myself when it comes to mentally. Whatever that may be, whatever that you may have to do in order to support your states of being. When it comes to emotionally, you may have to say, hey, I gotta become absolutely unstoppable, and not unstoppable, but I need to become absolutely merciless, absolutely relentless, absolutely unfazed by what is going on when it comes to my emotional state of being. I need to be the ideal, pure image of stability when it comes to, and non-dependency when it comes to, and non-validation searching when it comes to my emotional state of being. Physically, like I said, how do I need to carry myself in that situation? How can I best put myself in that situation to become successful and to succeed? And then spiritually, what perspective do I take in with this? How am I having faith in myself? How am I having faith in the situation? And how am I, still, regardless of what's happening, okay, how am I seeing that I'm advancing on my spiritual path? How am I seeing that this situation is going to help me grow, help me expand as an individual spirit, growing and now expanding out after going through experiences that help you learn more about your path? It's definitely a tough world that we live in, so being strong is a vital trait to have. Let's say your mental state of being is feeling attacked, or you think, someone's trying to get in my head, or man, my thoughts are just messed up right now, or I can't seem to wrap my head around it, or I'm not mentally ready for this, or you know what, I'm mentally checked out. I lost my mind X amount of time ago. I'm just mentally burnt out. Any of those things that you're experiencing when it comes to mentally, realize that that breaking down of your mental state of being, that let's say feeling of it fleeting, or feeling of, I just don't have that mind power, I don't have that mental strength right now. Being able to, in that situation, be mentally strong. Don't allow it to affect the way that you act when it comes to physically. Don't let it affect your actions. Don't let it affect the way that you feel. Don't let it affect how you have faith in the situation and what your spiritual system is, currently registering as for yourself. Don't allow that to happen. Just simply become strong when it comes to mentally, and realize that out of this situation, I'm going to gain even more mental strength, even more mental fortitude. And when it comes to physically, you might say, you know, I'm too tired. I can't do that right now. Or I've got a headache. I've been dealing with a lot of pain. It's all right at times when you are realizing that you need the absolute rest that you need to heal. That's what you need to do. But when it comes to the things like, oh, I'm not going to be getting enough sleep. Oh, I'm going to be running off a certain amount of sleep. Or, oh, I haven't been eating right. Or I haven't been drinking enough water. Or I've had a headache. Or I have a pain in my mouth. I have my throat hurts. You know, anything when it comes to physically. Realizing that you are going to take care of that when it comes to physically. You are going to heal when it comes to physically. And that process of healing is one that is helping you stay strong when it comes to physically. You making that recovery is important when it comes to physically. It's important for your strength to continue on as strong as you were before, and through those events, stronger than you have ever been. When it comes to emotionally, if you're feeling down, you feel depressed, you feel as if the world's against you, you feel like you never win, you feel, you know, left out, whatever it may be that you feel when it comes to emotionally, realizing that, you know what, whatever that is, whatever the way that I feel or whatnot, I'm going to just detach from that, and I'm going to realize that that feeling is going to pass, and I'm going to make space for my emotional state of being to come into a new space and to experience now the energy and motion that is detached from those previous feelings, detached from those, let's say, unwanted emotional feelings or whatever it may be. On the other side, it's embracing that feeling and realizing that, okay, I can do the same thing here that I did with detaching. I can attach to this and I can transmute this feeling into, you know what, that's something that motivates me. You're not going to get me down. You're not going to make me feel that way, and I'm going to actually feel this way. You know what, I'm actually going to feel this way. I'm going to actually do it this way. I'm not going to actually have that reaction emotionally. I'm going to have this reaction. I'm not going to have the impulsivity to act on emotional influence or whatever you may call it. I'm going to actually be strong when it comes to my emotional state of being, and I'm going to gain my stability, gain my balance when it comes to emotionally, and realize that I am the one experiencing this energy. I am the one experiencing these feelings, these emotions, and that regardless of how that makes me feel, I'm going to continue on being strong. Doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to continue on being strong regardless of what that is. Even if you have to get through something that's difficult, even if you have to feel a certain type of way for a certain amount of time, if that's going to benefit your state of being, then go through that when it comes to emotionally. You will be rewarded when it comes to getting through those difficult times, and when it comes to the strength that you will build from that. Let's say, you know, spiritually you feel as if, oh, I'm lost. Oh, I just want to continue living this lifestyle that I call life, and that it's okay, and it keeps me stagnant, and I'm good while it lasts, and it's fun for now, or whatever that may be. Don't let that overpower your purpose, your spiritual reason that you have for what you do in life. And realizing that, okay, even if I'm doing something right now that is not exactly directly correlated with my spiritual path, let me take this as far as I can throw it. Let me use this as best as I can in order to put back into my spiritual path, in order to transmute that and use that in a way where, okay, this is going to benefit my spiritual state of being. I'm not going to let this hold me back, but that lifestyle that I was living being able to be aware of it and say, am I spiritually outgrowing these situations? And even if I am going through that situation, let me see how this can benefit my spiritual path and how this can benefit, your spiritual purpose. How can this benefit you and continue to strengthen your spiritual system, strengthen your spirit, strengthen the soul that you are, and, soul strengthening. This whole thing is about soul strengthening. It's about becoming a hardened spirit. It's about becoming a hardened veteran, full body armor, and just, you can't break that armor, I'm telling you. So it's about creating that strength. It's about not staying weak. It's about, in the world that we are living in today, always being strong. Because you don't know what you're gonna have to face when it comes to what mental things you might go through. You don't know what is gonna happen when it comes to mental things that will happen, where you gotta get through that. You gotta come out on top, and you can't let that weaken you. You have to allow it to strengthen you. In the world that we're living in today, physically you can be told that you have a disease that you might not even be aware of, or that you may not even hold to be true in reality. And when they're telling you this, realize that you have that strength, and you have that warden, you have that clearance in life, and that you have that superiority of knowing what's real and what's not real. And in a world where they're going to start coming out with even more things that are new diseases, even more things that are, let's say, pandemic, like you guys know, the 2020 pandemic, which I'm not even going to get into, because to be quite fair, it's old news, and it's been old news, and ever since it was even a thing, it was old news to me, because I saw it coming weeks before it even happened. I knew something was up, but it was a operation, and you guys saw how it played out. So in a world where people are telling you things that are existing, you may have this disease, or you may be sick, or you can't go outside, you have to stay inside, you have to wear a mask, or whatever it is. You don't be weak. Don't listen to that. Don't realize that you have the authority over them, and that is the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical authority over them, because you know what's real. You are supporting what's real. You are supporting the truth, and not what's fake, and not lies, and not deception. So when they're coming out with stuff that, who knows, some stuff's going to be happening, and not only just that stuff, but physically what we see happening on the planet, we don't say, oh, that's too bad, we're all going to perish, we're all going to be in the eternal abyss. Let's say, oh, the world's ending. No, don't necessarily look at it in that way at all. Let's look at it in a way of, we have to go through these events. These are going to strengthen us, although things are going to happen. People, places, and things will be lost along the way. That's just how life is in general. There's a cycle of life and death, and we have to be able to allow that to create us to be stronger. We have to create the situation to make that a benefit towards us, and how we can transmute that energy when it comes to physically what's going on, as far as everything that's going on currently. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have things that just pop in your head and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into any of the specifics right now, but it just needs to be known that strength will have you getting through all of this. Strength will have you not being phased whatsoever, going through these situations. And when it comes to emotionally, people are, I mean, you hear things like this, right? You do hear things like, oh, people have never been this depressed before. You hear kids that are in school are depressed, or they feel as if they're not focused or whatnot. And I can get into that as well. I can get into my experience with ADHD and taking Adderall and other drugs used for treating ADHD. But I can get into that another time. But I'm saying that you always hear that, oh, people are depressed nowadays, mental health crisis, which has to do with also how people feel. You know, there's the emotional health crisis as well, just as important as mental health crisis, but they won't talk about it. And in a world where many people are, let's say, emotionally vibrating lower or experiencing more lowered emotions, or just operating on a lower spectrum when it comes to our lower desires rather than our higher desires. And in a world like that, people can be down, and that's not something that you should ever let happen. Don't allow the current state of the world to affect your emotional state of being and make you weak and vulnerable. No, that shouldn't make you weak and vulnerable. You should feel that, and you should feel attacked. You should feel the pain. You should embrace that pain and transmute that pain into fire under your ass to literally be as strong as you possibly can in order for that situation, in order for that to not affect you, in order for you to be in a higher vibration when it comes to emotionally. So living in a world that we are in today, it's important to stay emotionally balanced and to always emotionally have yourself in check. When it comes to spiritually, I can speak on a lot of things that are going on, but spiritual path is what everyone should be on. And that's because you know that we're spirits in bodies and that we are experiencing life right now. And so think about your actions, think about what's on your mind, think about your actions when it comes to physically, think about what's on your heart, how you feel emotionally. And if those things are not in sync with your spiritual path of the life that you're living or fulfilling, then you may need to look into that and realize that, hey, I have a totally different calling. What I've been doing previously is not necessarily right. That was my weak version of myself. That was a weak spiritual path that I'm on. Let me go and start and embark on a strong spiritual path. Let me start and embark on a bigger spiritual path, a more expansive spiritual path that's more in unison and in agreement with my mental, physical, and emotional states of being and everything else that there is to take into consideration. Take care, stay protected,